Well, good morning, viewers at home, and welcome to yet another edition of AM Cafe. AM Cafe is a flagship of OSBC television. We are transmitting from our studios here in Ileawiye, Okebale, Osogbo. It's another beautiful Monday morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this program, the first in the new week. Today, being the 14th day in the month of July 2025. Shall we say we extend our condolences to the nation, first and foremost, on the demise of the immediate past president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, whose death was announced yesterday by the incumbent Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He died in a London hospital after a brief illness. Also yesterday, we lost a prominent traditional ruler in Yoruba land, the Awujale of Sikiru Kayode Adetona, who died at 91. We extend our condolences, as I said, to the families of the two great Nigerians who bidded the world by yesterday. Straight to the business of the program in Cafe today. What should be the synergy between engineers and site engineers and laborers? What are the advantages of having site engineers to supervise projects? This will be the fulcrum of our discourse on the program here in Cafe this cold Monday morning. My guest is already seated. My name is Adeleke. My guest is already seated in the studio, and together for the next 20-25 minutes, we shall be taking a voyage around the topic on the program this morning. My guest is no less a personality than the Osun State Chairman of the Nigeria Institution of Civil Engineers. He's a fellow of Nigeria Institute of Civil Engineers, and by God's grace, he's the chairman of the institution in Osun State. I'm talking of Engineer Bashir Abiola. Engineer Bashir Abiola, you are welcome on board.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers at home.
Yes, Engineer Bashir Abiola is seated. Let's take the bull by the horn. Let's start from my question. Okay, what should be the synergy between site engineers and laborers? Let's start from that.
Thank you once again, my uncle. There should be synergy between the site engineers and the artisans, at construction sites. So, and before the synergy, there is the need for everybody to know their scope of work. So, to know your scope of work, know your limitations. So, for the site engineers, they should know their scope of work, know their limitations, and to the artisans as well, know their scope of works and know their limitations. If the engineers knows that, same to the artisans, then there will be synergy. There won't be conflict of interest between the two, because what usually cause unavailable situations on site is because of trying to that's a job overlap. So when an artisan feels he had experience in the construction, that he feels he can take up the job of a site engineer. So, and there's difference between being an expertise and having a practical skills. So the artisans, they have the practical skills, while the professionals, who are the site engineers, have the technical expertise. So these are two different things that cannot go at par. So the site engineer may not say, okay, oh, he has that full practical skills. So even if he had it, he has read about it, implementation may be difficult for him or her. So ditto artisans as well. Even if he felt, okay, oh, he has spent several years on site, you understand, say by virtue of his age and experience, he had had over 2 decades of practical experience. That does not translate to having that practical expertise, because technology keep evolving. So the trends in the infrastructural development world keep evolving, and it is the site engineers that go for certification courses, go for refresher courses, so to update his or herself with regards to the trends in the construction industry. The artisans, theirs is just okay, just keep up with their own practical skills. So they don't usually have these updates with the trends in the construction industry. They are being put updated by the engineers.
Engineer Abiola, let's separate the two.
Okay, sir.
Engineers and artisans, the one we call laborers. What makes the difference between the two?
So I've tried to brief it earlier. So talk about engineers. So the site engineers are any man or woman who have undergone the requisite training, vis-a-vis engineering studies in higher institution, and having done that has not even qualified him or her as an engineer, not until he will now have to go through another postgraduate experience where he or she will serve under a senior colleague, a senior registered and licensed engineer, for a minimum of 4 years, after which he will now apply to become a registered engineer. And applying to become a registered engineer is not getting on a platter of gold. He or she have to write a technical report, undergo oral interview, and if he passed, then he will be conferred and certified as a registered engineer. So then go to that of artisan. Artisan is just a man that probably just go through requisite training on probably handwork, if probably like bricklaying, carpentry, iron bending, on tiling, so internal decoration and all what have you. Just go through it, and be certified by their boss, to the extent that he has passed the requisite training of being an artisan. So an artisan as well, so they have their own cadre. They are in the lower cadre in the engineering hierarchy. So they are in the lower cadre. So and the cadre, talk about the hierarchy from top. We have the engineers, so who are those that have passed through the requisite undergraduate courses in engineering in the Korean registered universities, Korean certified university. Then we have that of the engineering technologists who have requisite undergraduate training as to the level of HND, higher national diploma, so at recognized and certified polytechnics. Then we now have the technicians, those ones OND, ordinary national diplomas, graduates, while on the lower cadre is now the artisan / craftsman. So they are in the bottom cadre. From the top to the bottom, they have their requisite scope of works, so to do.
So the engineers are the big men.
Yes,
at site.
Yes.
But can engineers do without the artisans?
No, we can't do without them. That's why I'm like, so there's this for synergy, there's this for collaboration. So we can't do it all alone. There is division of labor. and there shouldn't be conflict, because there is no an engineer cannot perform without an artisan, so and an artisan cannot perform without an engineer as well. So their scope of work is differs and is different. So in a situation by want to erect this building now, so you can have just a single engineer as a structural engineer, while you have several other craftsmen and artisans that will work under him, to make sure this building stands the test of time.
And what makes a site engineer more important at sites?
Thank you, moderator, once again. A site engineer is more important and paramount because he is saddled with the responsibility of making sure the project is erected and constructed to the specific design, because he can interpret the design before even execution. So he can interpret it and can follow it through to execution and post construction. So and while interpreting design, is even the one that will interpret the design, will give the other ones in the lower cadre. Talk about the engineering technologists, the foreman, the site supervisors, and the craftsmen. Is the one that will give them instruction on what to do on site. Like, okay, now you want to erect a building. The site engineer is one that will get the drawing, study the drawing, and want to, in the process of implementing it. So probably want to have the setting out. He knows, okay, he needs a carpenter, and a mason, a bricklayer, to help out in the setting out. After that setting out, you say, you peg the four corners of your project, and you indicate where you have your walls, where you have your, probably if you are going to have a column, you have a ground beam and all whatnot. So you will try and give instructions to the artisans who will now use their own practical skills, to make sure the projects come alive.
And in other words, what are the likely effects of not engaging engineers, the site engineer, in any construction work?
The not engaging an engineer, in construction work, is like, so you are calling for disaster. Because on a lighter note, most of our structures now talk about material selections as well. So we have a lot of inferior materials, flooding the market now. So it is the engineers that we refresh ourselves, with the trends of things. There have been times that when you design for probably in a particular column, probably you design for 4 reinforcements of say 16 mm. But when you discover that, okay, the 16 mm rod that you have, within the vicinity, so the dimension has been tampered. Talk about the quality has been tampered as well. Then we use our expertise to try and increase the area of reinforcement to cater for that as a factor of safety. So as a factor of safety to ensure the structural member still stands. But talk about the artisans now. They don't know that. They just believe, they just go to the market, they get whatever materials that is needed and they use it for construction. Even talk about this cement that we have. So we have grade of cement. We have grade 42.5 cement. We have grade 52 cement. We have grade 32 cement. So in the situation where you just go to the market, just get any cement, so that we have the cement that you use for probably block works, the one you use for concreting. So but now you use the one that you use for block work, you use for concreting. So and you expect the project to be stable. It won't be stable. So those are the things, that's why an engineer who have passed through the requisite training and knows his onions, so would have been acquainted with all these basic informations to ensure material selection will not be a problem to any structure. But artisans, they just speak. So let me give you an example. So I want to do a quotation. I called the iron dealer. Hello, how much for a ton of 16 mm? He told me 840. I said, how about the one that is full? He now said 1,30,000 naira. So you can imagine that if just an artisan wants to go and buy, so you can just say, okay, give me 16 mm. So and they give him that of 840, you will be happy because he will smile to the bank. Probably, you know, he have some savings. So not knowing that that of 840, the dimension has been tampered with. And if you already design something, you design for 16 mm, and what you are now getting is 14 mm, definitely the project is liable to fail. So but we as engineers, we already know the trends. We know, okay, the material selections, we know most of our material has reduced in quality and quantities. So and we have tried to engage ourselves to make sure we adopt the best practices, to adopt it, to incorporate all these anomalies we have in the market, you know, into our design, so that we can still have stable structures.
Well, if you are just joining us, the program is still AM Cafe, and my guest is still the chairman of the Institution of Civil Engineers in the Osun State, Engineer Bashir Adiola. We have been talking about synergy between site engineers and the artisans, the one we commonly call laborers. We'll take some of the questions in Yoruba, but before going there, let me ask this. The concern of most of intended or potential builders is that you site engineers, your cost is too overbearing. That is why they normally circumvent to engage artisans.
Thank you. I must lie to you. So that's a fallacy. Is a fallacy, because see, we as engineers, when you feel the cost is too much, but on the long run, what you stand to benefit from engaging an engineer can never be overemphasized, because we help you to manage your resources, we manage your money, we manage the man and resources on site. So in a situation by you have just an artisans, you know, that can barely calculate, you know, the materials required, and before you know it, probably where you need just 10 tons of fine sand, and he said, okay, you need 30 tons. So the remaining 20 tons is a waste. You now be looking at, okay, how do we go about this? I've seen, you know, a client, you know, called a tiler to take measurement, and before you know it, even after upon the usage of the tiles, what is left is more than half of what was purchased. So, but and look at that. Look at the extent of the money that the client has wasted, and will now be, you know, in cap in hand to see if probably he can, you know, sell it, you know, cheaper than how he got it. So, but for an engineer, we would have made sure he calculated, he does is a bill of engineering method of measurement, the BEME. So an evaluation, to do the BEME to ensure the right materials selection, the right quantities to make you save costs.
Well, for the benefit of our listeners at home who are speakers of local language Yoruba, mo kí n káàbọ̀ sórí ètò AM Cafe láàárọ̀ yìí. Àkójúmọ́ òní ọjọ́ ajé ọjọ́ kẹrìnlá inú oṣù keje ọdún 2025. Mo ṣe sọ níbẹ̀rẹ̀, kíra wa kú aráfẹ́ra kú ààrẹ orílẹ̀-èdè àná Muhammadu Buhari tí wọ́n lọ sí ibi àgbáre lánàá. Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni Awùjalẹ̀ tìjẹ́bú-Òde ọba Síkírù Káyọ̀dé Adétọ̀nà táwọn náà wájà lánàá. Àwọn méjèèjì àwọn èèyàn ńlá ló ṣípò padà lọ́jọ́ kan náà lórílẹ̀-èdè. À ń dárò wọn, a sì ń kó àwọn ẹbí wọn pé wọ́n kó aráfẹ́ra kú. Ètò AM Cafe à ń sọ̀rọ̀ lórí kí ló yẹ kó jẹ́ ìbáṣepọ̀ láàrin àwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ káàkiri engineers àtàwọn oníṣẹ́ ìdábọ̀ táwọn ń pè ní labourers, táwọn ń pè ní artisans, nígbà tí àwọn méjèèjì bá wà lẹ́nu iṣẹ́. Engineer Bashir Abiola, àwọn ni alága àwọn ẹgbẹ́ Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Wọ́n ti ń sọ lédè òyìnbó látẹ̀kan, wọ́n sọ ní Yorùbá kó lè yé gbogbo wa yéké, pàápàá jùlọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wa tá a gbé ìgbòho kí káàbọ̀ sórí ètò ilé ẹ̀kan sí.
Mo kí yín olóòtú.
Kí ló yẹ kó jẹ́ ìbáṣepọ̀ láàrin àwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ site engineers àtàwọn oníṣẹ́ ìdámọ̀?
Tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ok, ẹ ṣeun olóòtú. Èyí tó yẹ kó jẹ́ ìbáṣepọ̀ ni pé ìbáṣepọ̀ yẹn ó dẹ̀ yẹ kó dán mọ́rán ni, nítorí pé a jọ nídìí ara wa ni, àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ àti àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ wa a jọ nídìí ara wa ní ẹnu iṣẹ́ yìí ni, láti jẹ́ pé ìgbà tí mo dẹ̀ ti ọ̀rọ̀ pé àwọn conflict tó máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láàrin oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àti àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ yìí ní èdè àìyedè yẹn tó máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀, èdè àìyedè tó máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ yẹn a ti rí èmi ní, so mo wá wò pé kíní yìí, nítorí pé èdè àìyedè tó máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ yìí ó ti ń pọ̀ gan. Mo ní ọjọ́ kẹfà oṣù kẹta ọdún yìí mo wá kọ lẹ́tà sí gbogbo àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ tó wà ní Òṣogbo, àtàwọn tailor, àtàwọn carpenter, àtàwọn bricklayer, àtàwọn welder, kọ́ wá sílé ẹgbẹ́ wa kí a jọ ní àsọyépọ̀ lórí pé kí ní ìkòsẹ́ ẹnìkan kò gbaṣẹ́ ẹnìkankan, kí oníkálukú mọ ibi tí gbèdéke iṣẹ́ rẹ̀ ní ẹnu iṣẹ́ à ń kọ́lé, à ń ṣe títí à ń da ọ̀dà yìí. So wọ́n tó jẹ́ pé inú tí wọ́n náà dẹ̀ padà dùn, nítorí pé àwọn náà sọ ẹ̀dùn ọkàn wọn láì jẹ́ pé n tí ó ń fa èdè àìyedè. Nítorí ẹ̀ṣẹ̀lẹ̀ ni pé engineer, àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, àwa ni a ní òye yẹn pẹ̀lú ìwé tí a kà àti àwọn training tí a undergo, láti jẹ́ pé ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tí a ti ní, láti jẹ́ pé a mọ bá a ṣe lè gbogbo àwọn ìwé tá a fẹ́ kọ́ yẹn, bá a ṣe kọ gbogbo àwọn ohun àlùmọ́nì tá a máa lò tí gbogbo ẹ̀ tí lẹ́yìn tí yóò fi dúró rin gidi. So àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ wa, àwọn náà láwọn gáìdì wọn kókè o, ní tá a fẹ́ kọ́ lọ́tẹ̀ yìí ni o, ibẹ̀ ṣe yàrá ilé ni o, ní tí ó ṣẹlẹ̀ níbi yàrá bí bá ṣe dèrìn yìí ni. So irú táìlì tá a fẹ́ lò lélẹ̀ yìí, irú ọ̀dà tá a fi kun lélẹ̀ yìí, because gbogbo àwọn yẹn náà ló ní ẹ̀kọ́. Àwọn ọ̀dà tẹ́ fi kun ìta ó yàtọ̀ sí ìtẹ́ fi kun inú ilé. Ìtẹ́ fi kun ta ó gbọ́dọ̀ lè protect, ó gbọ́dọ̀ lè protect ara rẹ̀ from weather, fún pé bí òjò ń pa gbogbo ẹ̀ ń pa tó ẹlòmíràn rí wọ́n ti kunlé ọgbẹ́ ọ̀dà yẹn sáré aṣáàdànù. So lè lo ilé tẹ́ fi kunu ilé kẹ́ fi kun ta. So gbogbo àwọn nǹkan yẹn làwa ti ní ìmọ̀ rẹ̀, láì jẹ́ pé àwa náà á mọ gáìdì wọn kókè ẹja jọ ṣe báyìí. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ yìí ń gbà mí wọ́n pé àwọn náà ti ṣiṣẹ́, ilẹ̀ ti ta sí i, wípé àwọn náà ti ní òye láti jẹ́ pé àwọn náà lè dá gba iṣẹ́ yóò dẹ̀ ṣe dá ṣe. Àwọn lè fẹ́ rò pé àwọn lè dá ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn, but àwa onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ tá a bá gbaṣẹ́ a gbọ́dọ̀ pè wọ́n àjọṣe ni, but táwọn bá gbà àwọn ni wọ́n dá ṣe. So ló fi jẹ́ pé wọ́n mọ̀ wò pé àwọn lè dá iṣẹ́ ṣe, ìbáwọn kọ́ṣẹ́ àwọn mọṣẹ́ ni. Ṣé nísì tí bricklayer tó bá kọ́ tó ṣe bí bricklayer ló mọ̀, so tó wá gbaṣẹ́ gbogbo ilé kíkọ́, so òun ló fẹ́ control carpenter, òun ló fẹ́ control welder, ló fẹ́ control painter, ló fẹ́ control tiler. So kò ní ìmọ̀ yẹn láti jẹ́ pé kó lè kó bu wọn pọ̀. Bọ̀ àwa onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ gbogbo ẹ̀ làwọn ti kọ́ mọ́ṣẹ́ láti jẹ́ pé gbogbo oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ tí yóò bá jẹ́ kó wù kó rí, a lè control láti jẹ́ pé a lè guide wọn kókè bá ṣe ṣe lélẹ̀, bá ṣe ṣe lélẹ̀, bá ṣe lélẹ̀ yìí. So ìmọ̀ àjọṣepọ̀ yẹn ó yẹ kí ó wà, ó dẹ̀ kó dánmọ́rán. Ìgbà tá a dẹ̀ ṣe pàdé yẹn inú wọn dùn náà pé àwọn gan láwọn gan tún pè mí wá sílé ẹgbẹ́ àwọn láti jẹ́ kí ká máa là wọn lóye wípé àwọn nǹkan yẹn, wípé àwọn mọ̀ pé irú àwọn nǹkan báyìí gan pé a lè tún pe àwọn pé ọtí wò pé kókó jábele kálukú ń ṣe tiẹ̀ ni. Mo ní ìjọba tèmi o, mo fẹ́ kí sínájì yẹn kó wà ní, so inú wọn dẹ̀ dùn.
Níbo ni iṣẹ́ àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, níbo ló dé dúró? Níbo ni iṣẹ́ àwọn labourers, níbo ló dé dúró?
Ẹ ṣeun. Onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ iṣẹ́ tiwọn kò ní gbèǹdéke kan láti jẹ́ pé òṣìṣẹ́ tí wọ́n ní pé láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ project yẹn títí dé òpin àwọn ni wọ́n mójútó, tí wọ́n fi hand over fún ẹni tó níṣẹ́. So tí wọ́n bá wá ń ṣiṣẹ́ lọ, bóyá ìgbà tá nídìí bricklayer kó wá bá a ṣiṣẹ́ yóò ṣe tiẹ̀ yóò kúrò, tá bá nídìí carpenter kó wá bá a ṣiṣẹ́ yóò ṣe tiẹ̀ yóò kúrò, tá bá nídìí welder kó ṣiṣẹ́ yóò ṣe tiẹ̀ yóò kúrò, tá bá nídìí tiler á ṣe tiẹ̀ á kúrò ní tá a bá nídìí àwọn ní decoration bí àwọn painting òun náà yóò ṣe tiẹ̀ yóò kúrò ní so iṣẹ́ wọn ó ní gbèdéke tiwọn so bricklayer nísìn tó bá ṣiṣẹ́ tó bá parí iṣẹ́ tó jẹ́ iṣẹ́ bricklayer rẹ̀ kò ní sọ pé ó kàn ṣe carpenter kò ní òun náà tún lè mú ṣò òun lè ṣe carpenter kò lè sọ pé òun lè ṣiṣẹ́ welder so but gbèdéke ti wà níbi tí wọ́n yẹn láti jẹ́ pé in tó bá kọ́ ẹ̀ náà ni ó kọjú mọ́ so but engineer tiẹ̀ ọ̀hà ti kọ́ mọ́ṣẹ́ láti jẹ́ pé gbogbo ohun tí wọ́n ń ṣe yẹn gbogbo àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ yẹn la lè kó sọ̀dí láti jẹ́ pé tí a dẹ̀ guide wọn tẹ́ pé a sì mọ̀ fún ọ ní experience iṣẹ́ wọn pé báyìí la ṣe fẹ́ ká ṣe báyìí la ṣe fẹ́ ká ṣe báyìí la fẹ́ ká ṣe tẹ́ pé gbogbo ẹ̀ ó dẹ̀ dán mọ́rán.
tẹ bá ẹsẹ̀ ń wò wá onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ Bashiru Abiola àwọn ló wà lórí ètò àti ń sọ̀rọ̀ tó yẹ kó jẹ́ ìbáṣepọ̀ láàrin àwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ àti àwọn libra society ẹ jẹ́ ká wá wò téèyàn ò bá gba àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ ṣiṣẹ́ ewu ló wà níbẹ̀.
ewu tó wà níbẹ̀ pọ̀ o ọlọ́mọdé á pàdánù ẹ̀mí wa ká má pàdánù owó wa nítorí pé àwọn ohun tá a fi ń kọ́ ilé nìsín gan kò dàbí tàtijọ́ mọ́ so gbogbo ẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti tọwọ́ bọ̀ tí quality yẹn ò sí bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́ ayédèrú ti pọ̀ ó ti pọ̀ gan-an so láti jẹ́ pé àwa engineer so àwa máa ń ṣe ìpàdé láyé pé bóun ni kí ló tún ṣẹlẹ̀ o bóun ni material ilé yorùbá yẹn tẹ́ pé a máa ń lara lọ́yẹ̀ lórí ẹ̀ so ta máa ń ṣe àwọn ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kankan pé eléyìí bí àìnìkan lára wa ó fẹ́ ṣe project kan ó rí pé material tóun lò yẹn ó rí pé kò mu so yóò pe àwa yòókù sákìyèsí nítorí pé ẹnu ti wá kò a sì ní ilé ẹgbẹ́ tẹ́ pé gbogbo bí ẹ̀ẹ̀mejì lóṣù la máa ń ṣe ìpàdé tá a máa ń fomi jómi tó ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀jẹ̀ lórí pé òkè gbogbo ìpèníjà tá a bá ní ẹnu iṣẹ́ wa so gbogbo àwọn nǹkan yẹn ló jẹ́ pé àwa onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ a ti máa ń mọ̀ tó yẹ pé a dẹ̀ máa ń mú lò láti jẹ́ pé mo sọ ọ̀kan lẹ́ẹ̀kan ní ìbò irú sìmẹ́ǹtì tá a ní ẹ̀sìn náà ó ní grade wọn ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni so grade wọn ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni tí ẹ bá rò pé bí oníṣẹ́ àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ sì mo ti mọ̀ pé iṣẹ́ tí mo fẹ́ ṣe mo fẹ́ po kọ́ńkéré ni mo ti mọ irú grade cement ti máa lò kò bá jẹ́ Dangote ni kò bá jẹ́ Bua ni kò bá jẹ́ ní cement tí a fẹ́ lò so mo ti mọ grade ti máa lò but àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ wọ́n kàn ra cement tó wù wọ́n ni wọ́n bá fẹ́ ra abẹ́nìkò a fẹ́ lo irin 12mm nsìn wọ́n kàn lọ́jà ẹ fún wa ní irin 12mm àwa ti mọ̀ pé irin 12mm kan wà tí ẹ pé kò tó 12mm yẹn so but àwọn kàn ra èyí tán bá rí ní ọjà especially tó bá jẹ́ pé wọ́n ti jẹ́ pé kí wọ́n lè save owó láì jẹ́ pé wọ́n fi lè tún rí owó fi sí àpò ń bẹ̀ so àwọn ò fẹ́ mọ̀ pé òkè ò ṣe quality kìíní àwọn àdẹ̀rẹ́ gbogbo material tá a bá gbà rí tá a bá ti rà a tún máa ń mú lọ fún material testing tá a tún lọ ní kan tún test ẹ̀ pé ṣé kíní lágbára iṣẹ́ tí a fẹ́ fi ṣe láì jẹ́ pé tó bá dẹ̀ pé ó lágbára iṣẹ́ yẹn láàtó lò àkàn ṣe déédéé pé kò yàtọ̀ kó material pa lò àbá àpò kan kiri kalẹ̀ nísìn àtúgbù ń bẹ̀ á gbé lọ lab ẹ bá wa wò ó ṣé concrete àpò yìí ṣé yóò bá ìtafẹ́ lò fún mu wọ́n sì sọ pé àtàwọn dẹ̀ ti fún wa ní gbé wọ́n ti certify pé ó bá mu látò continue gbogbo àwọn yẹn àwọn ò ní àwọn kan bẹ́ẹ̀ sẹ́lọ̀.
àǹfààní wo ló wà nínú pé kéèyàn bá yín ṣàṣepọ̀ torí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ táwọn èèyàn máa ń sọ ni pé owó tẹ́ máa ń ṣáàjì àwọn èèyàn ó pọ̀ ṣáàfààní wà ní owó tẹ́ ṣáàjì.
ṣẹ́rí owó tán ní à ń ṣáàjì tó pọ̀ yẹn ṣẹ́rí ọ ní pé Ọlọ́run ní pé kí gbogbo náà ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká jèrè ni ẹgẹt òbí tó rọmọ náà lọ kọ́ṣẹ́ ìmọ̀ ẹ̀rọ tí ó náwó tó nára tí ọmọ náà tó ẹ pé mọ gbogbo tí ó ṣe kó tó di pé ó débẹ̀ so definitely òun náà yóò fẹ́ lo ìgbé ayé rẹ̀ kí ó rọrùn fún òun ní in moderation dé so now owó tá a máa ń sọ pé à ń ṣáàjì yẹn kò pọ̀ àwọn èèyàn lè wò kó pọ̀ but tí ẹ bá gbé sí ẹ̀gbẹ́ iye tí tẹ́ pé oníṣòwò kan lẹ́kàn gbéṣẹ́ fún tẹ́ bá gbé síra wọn ẹ rí i pé ntí ẹ gain ní orí project ẹ pé onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ bá yín ṣe àti ilé tẹ́ pé oníṣòwò bá yín ṣe ẹ rí i pé ẹ padà gain yẹn owó ẹ̀tọ́ onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ ẹ lè rí kó pọ̀ but nǹkan tí wọ́n bá yín save in terms of àwọn nǹkan ohun material tẹ́ máa lò fún iṣẹ́ yín yóò bá yín save ẹ̀ then àwọn ó tún mọ bí ó ṣe lè bá yín cut cost lórí àwọn tó fẹ́ bá yín ṣiṣẹ́ gan because àwa a lè mọ bá a ṣe ń kú kìí sìn tá bá wo iṣẹ́ tá à ń ṣe tó fẹ́ ṣe a mọ gbèdéke iye iṣẹ́ tí bricklayer kan lè ṣe ní ojúmọ́ a mọ gbèdéke iṣẹ́ tí carpenter kan lè ṣe lójúmọ́ a mọ gbèdéke iṣẹ́ tí àwọn dẹrindẹrin àwọn welder àwọn àgbẹ̀dẹ tán lè ṣe lójúmọ́ so òyìn láàfin ti bí fi charge owó yẹn so but ẹni tó yẹ kó oníṣòwò ni tó yẹ kó bá yín pé ẹ fẹ́ bá yín tó blọọ ní ẹ ó yá ẹ fún wa 250,000 ẹni náà mọ̀ pé dákun gba 200 láì jẹ́jẹ́ pé tó bá yẹ pé àwa onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ ni a bá fẹ́ bá bricklayer yẹn sọ̀rọ̀ a ti mọ iye blọọkù tí ó mọ̀ a mọ iye blọọkù tí ẹnìkan ó mọ̀ lójúmọ́ ìyẹn láàfin bá a sọ̀rọ̀ lórí iye owó rẹ̀ so ìyẹn ni wọ́n fẹ́ kó ṣẹlẹ̀ láì jẹ́ pé tọ́mọ́ fi ń wò pé kan dàgbàṣẹ́ gbígbà pé àwa máa ń baṣẹ́ jẹ́ fún àwọn ni kò yẹ kí wọ́ọ̀wọ́ọ̀ wà ní àárín wa àwọn ibi tí kùjẹ̀kùjẹ̀ yẹn wà òun nìyẹn láì jẹ́ pé àwọn náà máa fẹ́ pé káwọn náà lè sọ pé kí báyìí báyìí dáwọn fẹ́ ṣe kí ó dẹ̀ rí bẹ́ẹ̀ láì jẹ́ pé bóyá ẹnjìníà kan wà lórí iṣẹ́ yẹn wọ́n dẹ̀ tún máa fẹ́ ṣe àwọn gbàlùmọ̀kọ́rọ́ ìkẹ́tẹ́ pé ìtàwọn gan mọ̀ pé ó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe kó wà bó ṣe yẹ kó wà so wọ́n á lè rò pé bóyá iṣẹ́ ń sìn pé iṣẹ́ 100,000 ẹnìyẹn wá ní pé ó dẹ́bi ọ̀sẹ̀ wá náà pa wá ní ẹgbàá 70,000 àwọn náà wá ṣiṣẹ́ 50,000 fún tó dẹ̀ mọ̀ pé tí ẹnjìníà bá wà ní tó iṣẹ́ yìí ṣé dáadáa wà ní owó tán san náà ni ò pé owó iṣẹ́ yìí ò pé àwọn ni so àwọn ò fẹ́ mọ̀ pé bí tí ò bá pé àwọn káwọn jẹ́ kí iṣẹ́ yẹn pé àwọn pé kán ṣe bó ṣe yẹ kán ṣe náà still àwọn kàn ṣe níṣe pé bá ń bẹ̀ ni pé bí ò bá ba lókè àbá ń sàlẹ̀ àwọn onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ dẹ̀ rí certificate wa ó jẹ wá lógún láti jẹ́ pé ká lè protect ẹ̀ so because òfin dè wá ẹni tí ò bá ṣe dáadáa tó yẹ kó ṣe àbí ẹni tí ajé ìwà ìbàjẹ́ bá ṣí mọ́ lórí nínú wa yóò lu páńpẹ́ òfin yàtọ̀ páńpẹ́ òfin gan páńpẹ́ institution náà yóò lù.
ní àkótán kí ni ìmọ̀ràn yín fún àwọn tó ń gbèrò láti kọ́lé.
ẹ ṣeun àwọn tí wọ́n ń gbèrò láti kọ́lé àmọ̀ràn mi ni pé ẹ tọ̀ àwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ lọ lórí ilé tí ẹ bá fẹ́ kọ́ ẹ tọ̀ wọ́n lọ kí ẹ bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ èyàn alẹ́ ara ni wá gbogbo àná àjọ ń kó abítì náà àjọ ń gbé pọ̀ náà ni so ẹni tí ó fẹ́ kọ́lé náà òun náà fẹ́ ṣe dáadáa ni kò sónímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ náà tí yóò wá rò pé bí òun kóun wá gáàgẹ̀ kóun wá máa fi owó fún ẹnìyẹn lọ́rùn so àwọn náà máa ń encourage ẹni tó bá ń kọ́lé lájẹ́ pé kí ilé yẹn kí gbogbo process náà fi kọ́ kó fi rọ̀ wọ́n lọ́rùn ni so ẹ má wò pé bí owó wa pọ̀ owó yẹn náà kò tó nǹkan ìwọ̀ntúnwọ̀nsì ni owó tá à ń gbà yẹn ẹ lè dàbí ìgbà kó pọ̀ lójú but tá a bá fẹ́ compare pẹ̀lú iṣẹ́ tá a fẹ́ bá yín ṣe àti àwọn owó tí a tún save fún yín tí ẹ bá lo akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ ó ju kí ẹ gbéṣẹ́ fún oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ lásán lọ tá ẹ bá gbéṣẹ́ fáwa oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ náà láàjọ ṣe but ẹ bá gbé fún oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ kò ní pe onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ síṣẹ́ o àwọn challenges kan dẹ̀ máa ń wà lórí iṣẹ́ tẹ́ pé onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ ló mọ àdúdé àpàdé bí ó ṣe yanjú ẹ̀ so yẹ pé ó lè mọ yé oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́.
ibi ìlà fi àdágbé ètò rọ̀ sí láàárọ̀ yìí lórí ètò PM Cafe mo fẹ́ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ àlejò mi lórí ètò láàárọ̀ yìí onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ Bashir Abiola àwọn ni alága Nigeria Institution of Civil Engineers ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun wọ́n ti là wá lọ́yẹ̀ àwọn sì ní àbọ̀rọ̀ lásọ fọmọlúwàbí tó bá dénú ẹ̀ ká dòdòdè gbogbo àwọn tá a ti gbọ́ ìmọ̀ràn wọn ẹ jẹ́ ká múlò kí a lè rí àǹfààní ẹ̀ wọ́n láǹfààní ẹ̀ wà níbẹ̀ ọlọ́ọ̀ni yá ká paná ká sọ tọ́rọ́ nù ọlọ́run jẹ́ ká máa jèrè ibi tá a bá ìwò wá sí. lókè lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí I appreciate your presence on the program. Shola Muleye is the producer of PM Cafe. On behalf of the entire production crew here, my name is Adeleke. I'm saying a good morning and a blessed day at work today.